Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Get the Shot, brought to you by Tamron Australia. My name is Joe Orchard and I am your host. Today with me I've got legendary photographer Craig Wetjen. He has been shooting for a really, really long time. I was going to say the number. Can I say the number?
You can say the number.
Over 40 years. Just absolutely incredible, legendary career. You may know him from his book, Men and Their Sheds. We're going to talk about this and workshops and everything else he gets up to. Craig, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me, Joe.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're not from Australia, of course.
No, could you tell?
I could tell a little bit, yeah.
just a little bit. Now, I've been here 30 years as of Monday this week.
I know, congratulations.
So, from the US, so I've been a citizen here in Australia since 2017, and I'm happy to be a citizen here, so yes.
Wow, that's wonderful. It took you a while to be a citizen.
It took me a while. Look, it was a long adventure, so kids, mortgage, a couple of businesses, and, teaching, and just life gets in the way, so.
Yeah. What brought you to Australia in the first place?
I came to Australia 30 years ago to introduce Australia's first digital photography course at RMIT, and also to get my master's degree. I never got my master's degree, but I did introduce the course at RMIT, and yeah, that was a very long time ago.
Wow.
Seems like yesterday, but
I find it interesting with you because we were talking before the show, and teaching and workshops are a big part of your identity and your profession. Mm-hmm. Do you think you're a photographer who likes teaching, or a teacher that happens to be into photography?
I'm a photographer who's interested in teaching people.
Oh yeah? Do you want to
elaborate? I can elaborate on that. Well, it's just look, you could be a teacher to teach photography, and photography is a hobby. But if you're a photographer, I feel I can impart 40 years of knowledge of photography and my experience. I always used to teach my students about the 10,000 hour rule. 10,000 hours to master a craft. That's 10 years full time. So, I've been doing it for 40 years full time, nearly full time. So I can impart a lot of that experience and knowledge on people. And look, doing it that long, to be honest, I still learn something new with photography, because photography is such a huge expanse of a career, a hobby. It's just, there's so much to photography. Yeah. So lighting, book production, you name it. So people, interaction.
Yeah, right. What is something new that you've learned about photography?
Something new that I've learned in photography. Oh gosh. I wish you prepared me for that. I would have thought.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Something new that I learned. Look, maybe it's not even new. It's about understanding more about, say, for example, depth of field, depth of field is one of those things that takes a long time. The more you shoot with a lens, and whether you go from, say, a small sensor, crop sensor, to a full frame sensor, your depth of field changes. Yeah. So then you kind of adapt to that camera, and you then I understand that I know I'm going to get this much in f8, this much, so on and so on. So depth of field, I feel I'm still actually playing more and more with depth of field and understanding, where I want my focus point. And that's where I teach a lot of people as well, is you might not always want to focus off the distance. You might want to focus a little bit closer, because you've got, most lenses, not all, but are 1/3 front, 2/3 back. Yep. And your depth of field also depends on the wider the lens, the greater the depth of field, the narrower the lens, those sorts of things. So I'm always thinking harder about my depth of field even when I'm out shooting landscape photography, just for fun. And I go, where am I going to focus? Like, I went out and photographed the auroras the other night. Oh, that was spectacular the other week. Wow. And I was thinking depth of field, but I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, there is no depth of field. Yeah. I'll shoot practically wide open, because you're thinking in, hundreds of kilometers, millions of kilometers, whatever. Yeah. Your depth of field is almost nil. So I was shooting wide open. But I was thinking about where I'm going to focus. Do I focus on the rocks in the foreground, or do I focus on that spotlight that's way off in the distance, or do I focus on a star?
Yeah.
You know, so I was experimenting while I was out there on the beach. So I was trying to focus in the dark, which is not easy.
No, not easy.
You know, on a cliff edge, and then I found a light that was blinking. Oh, quickly focus on that, and I'm like, you know, I'm just going to focus on that star.
Amazing. I've been thinking a lot about depth of field myself, because a lot of my work that I do and have done has been on social media. So small screens, small presentation, cropped, narrow, all that. Simulated depth anywhere you can, getting a wide lens and rotating the camera sideways. And the pieces of art people engage with the most, photos, video, are where depth is a big piece of it. It's relevant and it's been considered.
Yeah.
So it is something that I often think about. I'm
Depth
glad.
of field is probably one. I think it is probably one of the most foremost things that should be in the front of your mind when you're thinking about what you're going to photograph. You know, my Men in Sheds book, I focused heavily on depth of field, where I was going to focus, what aperture I wanted to have in there. I'm like that photo was at f11, and yeah, I can remember half of the apertures that I shot my shots, because I spent so much time with these fellas in this book, that I just considered everything in every single photograph, what my aperture was going to be. Okay, it's going to be f11 because I got this. I want the depth back there. So then, you know, so I considered absolutely everything when it came to depth of field.
Amazing.
Because the shutter speed, yeah, look, that was my longest exposure. That was a 1 second exposure.
Okay.
And obviously he's holding onto the car. So I've got a couple of light sources in there, but if you're communicating with your subject, and I educated some of these people what I was doing. I said, I'll walk them through. This is going to be my aperture. Oh, what does that mean? I said, you know, think about your iris in your eye, your pupil in your eye. It closes down when it's really bright, opens up when it's really dark.
Yeah.
So
just to make sure it's all like clear, do you want to explain what the book is? And it's not just a photo book. It's a bit more. There's a bit more to it.
It's not just a photo book. Look, it was my way of going back into why I fell in love with photography. So I started the book when I was running a wedding and portrait business, and this is about 2010, and the global financial crisis and all that sort of stuff hit, and I was just watching my business pretty much evaporate in front of me, and I'm like, I got to think creatively and differently with something that's not necessarily for somebody else. Like all my wedding photography was for someone else. It was for me. Yeah, money-wise, it was great, but it just didn't soothe my soul of why I fell in love with photography. And I started the book with my father-in-law, photographed him in his shed, and I'm like, I really like this. I took my time. I lit everything. Every photo in this book was lit with purpose and meaning, so I could craft light, just like the word photography. The word photography, photography.
Yeah.
Photo first, light.
Yeah.
Greek. So light first, then you draw with light to create the image. That's kind of how I looked at this book, and I went back to this book because I wasn't in a good place mentally with the way my business was going, trying to, you know, pay the mortgage with the credit card, then the money would come in, pay the credit card off. You know, I was doing this backwards and forwards. So I needed to get back to something that, and that this is what came out of it. And at the time when I first started the book, I went and had a mental health assessment, and I found out I was diagnosed with chronic lymphatic leukemia, and that threw a whole new perspective on what I did. So I basically, from that day one, I basically killed my business. Didn't advertise, didn't market at all. That's when I went to teaching, because the stress of trying to do that. And I knew once I had that diagnosis, that I had purpose. This book gave me more purpose of helping me, pardon me, helping me and finding a way of helping others with communication and about their mental well-being. So the crux of the book was me going around to 101 men in their backyard sheds and getting them to open up about what their shed meant to them, what their family meant to them, what it was important to them about their mental well-being, and I captured their stories, and I wrote, rewrote their stories, and just that when you're looking at the photograph, you can relate to Ron and find more purpose behind why he has his shed, and what that shed has really meant to him. So you've got beer making, you've got cars, you've got pinball machines. Pinball machines. So pinball collection.
Unbelievable.
So just car collections, painting. You name the fella, I kind of found them, and it just went. I didn't have to advertise. I didn't have to market the book. It marketed itself through, I guess, the more people found out about why I was doing what I was doing it for. Not why I was doing it, it's what I was doing it for. People are like, I'm on board, and I'd have a list of names. I could probably do this book 10 times over.
Fantastic. Okay.
So that gives you a crux for that.
Yeah.
Long and winded, but yeah.
No, that's very insightful and super interesting. Men in particular struggle to open up about mental health and their experiences and all sorts of things like that. How did you connect with the men in this book, and how did you get them to open up, not only for the photos but for the stories that they were going to tell?
Look, to be honest, I think it was quite easy. Now, I say that not in jest, but I say that quite meaningful. There's a great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yep.
And you get people to talk about themselves. So I always found a way. I got them to show me around their shed, and show me their favorite tool, and get them to talk all about their shed. I think the longest shed shoot I had was probably about 5.5, maybe 6 hours, just in conversation. And that 6 hours at the end, that's when I ended up taking the photo. I mean, you don't do this. I didn't do this to make money, although it did. But I project planned this, and I did it because I wanted to find a way of connecting with other people to open up, because I've never been shy to talk about my mental health, and to get other people to open up about their mental health. And just by talking about their tool, talking about their shop, their workshop, their cars, you name it, they just opened up. Amazing.
Where does photography sit in with your mental health journey? Is it an escape? Is it your...
Look, I've always, when I was teaching my students at all the universities that I taught at, that photography is where you engage with the world in front of you. Just like I'm having this conversation with you, I'm engaging with you and having that conversation with you. With photography, you're having a conversation not with yourself, although you're having a conversation of what aperture, shutter speed, and all that sort of fun stuff that you're doing. But you're having a conversation with the environment around you. And that's where my photography walks for well-being that I've been running since October 2019 really took off, because I wouldn't nominate a topic until that morning. So first Friday of every month, 9 o'clock in the morning, I'd notify everybody on Facebook where we're going to meet, and you either come or you don't. You make it this month, you make it next month, it doesn't matter. People just come and go. Some people I haven't seen for a couple of years, some people I see every single month. And you get to connect with what you're trying to do in front of you, but that topic is what blows people away. From aperture topics to architecture to abandonment to color. I don't even know what I'm going to do this Friday. I'll sometimes think about it on the train on the way in.
Yeah, right.
On what topic we're going to photograph, and then they're like, "Oh, Craig, how are we going to photograph that?" And I'm just like, "Easy, go out there and find something and get your head, because photography takes you out of your head."
Yeah.
Your brain in your head is the best storyteller, and it just sits there and chats away with itself. But when you get yourself out of your head and get yourself in the environment, it's a great tool.
I can imagine myself in the situation of someone on the photo walk being told the topic and being like, how am I going to do this? Where am I going to go? But a few weeks ago, we had Andrew Tan on the podcast, who was one of the people on your photo walks, and the topic was umbrellas.
Yes.
And the photos he took on that, he entered into Australian Photographer magazine and won in the black and white category.
Yep. Brilliant. And that was a topic of the day. That was one of the topics on a Friday. Umbrellas. I mean, the photography topics are absolutely endless. You could I come up with a new topic every month.
Yep.
I think I've only repeated a few, and I did one where everybody had a lucky dip. Nice. So I took all the topics I've done over the years, and you just got in whatever you got. So from digital pinhole, I mean, people blow their minds that you can turn your digital camera into a pinhole. Of course you can.
Yeah.
Of course you can. So, but nobody's ever done it. Multiple exposures. How do I do it? So I sit there and teach people how to do multiple exposures in the camera. So on these photo walks, I bring my teaching. I think I've experienced every single camera that's out there. So I can kind of find where multiple exposures in. So it's something that, again, you're engaging with the camera. I'm engaging with you. I can engage with the camera and talk to the audience out there, but then it makes you feel uncomfortable because I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
But it would make me feel weird, but out in the audience, they'd enjoy that I'm talking directly to them.
Teaching is an interesting point and perspective in photography. I actually come from a videography background, and of course, editing video is a big part of that. And everything I know about editing video, I've learnt off YouTube University. Have you heard that expression before?
I have.
So what is the value in a photo walk like yours or a course like RMIT when the option of going online and Googling is available, or attending YouTube University?
First thing that comes to my mind is it's a phrase. The value is what you put into it. So whatever you put into, whether it's the idea that you go on a photo walk, or you want to go get a degree or a master's degree in photography, it's the value of it is what you put into it, is what you're going to get out of it. You put nothing into it, you're going to get nothing out of it. So, as a teacher, I put in, no offense to all the students out there that didn't put any value into my teaching, sorry guys, but the ones who put value into what I taught, I gave more attention to, because they valued my opinions, my ideas, my suggestions, my teaching. And I do have a lot of people that come up to me 20 years later. You taught me this, and I learned that, this, and this from you. Because I still hear you in the back of my head. These sorts of things.
With your book, Men in Their Sheds, it was featured on the project when it came out. It's sold over 15,000 copies. 20,000 copies, my bad.
No, that's okay. That doesn't matter. I don't want to brag.
Did you have any idea it would be as successful as it was?
Yes and no, to be honest.
Yeah.
You put it out to the universe, which I did. I got my knowledge, my what I wanted out of my head, I put it on paper, because that made it real. We can have all the ideas we want up here. That's great. What are you going to do with them? Just like you can have all the photography you want on your computer. What are you going to do with them? The second you print it, put it up on the wall, it's real. You have an exhibition. People come along, enjoy. You can't see, I can't see what's on your phone photos. I can't see what's on my computer. You can't see what's on my computer, but the way you do it is put it up on the wall. It makes it real and tangible. So the more you put in, it's investing in yourself. So the photo walks, I do use the photo walks to invest in me, and whoever wants to come along with that adventure with me, come along.
Yeah.
And that's what it's 1 hour. Well, it's usually a little bit longer than 1 hour. Come on, to be honest. I mean, the walk is 1 hour.
Yeah.
But we have a central location. I nominate a space or spot somewhere around the CBD, which is easy for everybody to get to. So this Friday we meet at the aquarium. We've never met at the aquarium. We always use, the major train stops. We've done Ballarat. We did Ballarat Biennale last year. So we all went up there, and we had a photo walk as well as seeing all the exhibitions up there.
Amazing.
But you're investing in you. So to get back to your question, education, whatever you put into whatever education is, whether it's university YouTube,
yep,
or university itself,
yeah,
or workshops. You got to put value on what you can afford and what value of what you want to get out of it. So the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it.
You touched on something interesting earlier about print the photos, see the photos. We're talking a lot about your book, so physically turning pages and seeing photos. I bring this up a lot in the podcast because I find it quite interesting. Social media and photos there. The exhibition, and that as an exhibition space, feels different to, something tangible, walking into a gallery, seeing it in a book. Do you believe photographers can connect with photos in a social media setting as well as they could in a print format?
Yeah, you can, but the problem with social media is, look, all of our photography walks for well-being, everything is shared up on social media. In the photography walks for well-being page, I can go backwards and look at everything that's ever been photographed, but it takes a while to go backwards. A book, it's right there on your coffee table. It's 100% tangible, immediate to look at. An exhibition is kind of a little bit on the social media side. It's only there for a certain period of time, unless it's probably a bad analogy, but I think you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
But an exhibition, social media is non-tangible. Yes, you see the photo, but it's screen quality.
Yeah.
And the colors are probably oversaturated. It's probably sometimes hard to see possibly the true intent of the motion blur or whatever blur, or the sharpness of the image can get lost in that social media, where print, you can go right up to that photograph and you can hunt and look and feel the depth in a printed image. Printed image, like digital, it's only there for an instant. The second you turn the computer off, it's gone. Where you print your own work and hang it up on the wall, you get to see it every day. I can go off on so many different tangents on that idea, but from photography is you kind of bring the printed image, brings the photograph back to life from the world you just took it from.
Yep.
Kind of idea.
Yeah.
Because you digitally you take it away, and then you never see it again, or then you put it in your computer, you post-produce it in your digital darkroom, and then you print it, and now becomes a tangible form. Where social media is kind of not necessarily a tangible form. As such.
You ask someone what was the last 10 posts you saw that you scroll through, and they could barely remember them to begin with.
You could barely remember them, but I can definitely remember exhibitions. I can definitely size of the print, scale of the print, those sorts of stuff.
Absolutely. I remember when I was 17, I was in New York at, I forgot the museum, but Jackson Pollock. There was a painting of his up there. And I didn't quite get his artwork. I'm just like, it just splatters. It's a bit weird. What's going on here? But then I remember very specifically turning the corner and seeing it. It took up a whole wall, like the wall behind you from the door to the shelf. It was like that long. And all the splats and the paint, it was like 3D. It felt like there was paint all the way back there and it was all the way close up to me. And so, seeing that digital image online, I don't get any of the depth or anything like that. And so it's totally that point of tangible and detail, and you can go closer, you can go further, and you remember the space it was in too.
So think about this idea, and for those who are watching as well, think about this and relate this whole idea back to just photography and mental well-being, right? You're engaging with the world around you, which is tangible. It's touch, you can feel the M&Ms, you can hear it, you can, photography should be a sensory exchange, and that's a sensory exchange between you and the environment and the world that's in front of you. Those fleeting moments, think about Henry Cartier-Bresson would sit on the corner for 10, 15, 20 minutes until a moment happened. That could be a good idea. Sit on a corner.
Right?
Wait until that moment comes and happens.
Is that going to be tomorrow's topic? Yeah.
Tomorrow, well, Friday's topic, so we're on Wednesday, aren't we? Yeah, Wednesday. So do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
That whole idea that, you get to touch the world in front of you.
Yeah.
Where social media, it's all good. Not everybody's on social media. Not everybody really cares about social media. Do I care about social media? To be honest, yes and no. I'm kind of burnt out from it, but I don't want to go away from it because it allows me to engage with my friends, my colleagues, my walks for well-being people, my all that. High school graduates that I went to photography school with in the States. It's funny, a photograph popped up. It was a printed image, by the way, but it was photographed as a printed image. And it was a photo of me 32 years ago. It's when I had hair. But it brought back a memory, and that's with photography. Photography will always bring back a memory.
The very first clip that we ever had on social media of this podcast was us referring to photos as time traveling. So I can take a photo, you can see a photo of me in, say that same New York trip that I was on when I was 17. You can see buildings, you can sort of get an idea for what the area was. But I can look in that photo and I can remember the smell that was there, what the temperature was, what I did just beforehand and what I did afterwards. And that whole connection there is so powerful and meaningful.
Yep.
And in some cases you can close your eyes and you're right there.
That's right. And again, relate that back to mental well-being in photography. You're I don't want to dwell on it, but it's just so important.
It's fun to dwell on it.
Yeah, that you are engaging with that world in front of you and getting back to your mind is the greatest storyteller, and it can narrate anything you want. But riddle me this, Batman.
Okay.
That when you're out shooting, are you actually talking to yourself about a problem that you're having? No. Well, I don't think you would be, because I can't think of any time that I've been out there shooting that I was doing that. I was actually like, okay, this is one I want to photograph, think about composition. Okay, what aperture, shutter speed I'm going to do. Yep, cool. All right, you're framing it up. And then okay, yep, cool. Yep, got it, great. And then, you look at it. Well, nowadays you can look at it instantly. But you're engaging with that. You're talking to yourself through the photograph about that's out, but you're not talking about your problems.
No.
Your problems only come back when you stop,
Yeah.
and then you start letting the mouse and the wheel go round and round. And that's the whole the other idea as well. The Walks for Wellbeing is I get to see people, I see once a month, and we walk together, or we go in our different directions and we meet up for a coffee at the end. So it's a 1 hour, we meet up for coffee, and then everybody gets all excited. Oh, I gotta see this, Craig, and they're scrolling through all their photos and getting all excited. Oh, I thought it was gonna be so hard, and look, I got some blinder shots. Of course, there's some sensational photography that's been taken. I mean, mind blowing.
Yeah.
Why didn't I see that angle and you were standing right next to me?
Yeah.
Because I don't walk in people's other shoes. I walk in my own shoes.
You're so right about that point. And Michael, who you met earlier, he does motorsport photography. And so he'll be standing on a corner with 5, 10, 15, 20 other photographers in some instances. They're all cramming into space. And we've got very similar technology, very similar location. But the photos people get, the variance from them, even the same car going around the same bend, kicking up the same dust, same smoke, same everything, but the storytelling that people can produce, all in that situation, it changes drastically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Research has proven that photography is an art form as therapy. And that's why I keep doing my Walks for Wellbeing, and I don't do it just for me. Well, I do it just for me, and everybody else just comes along. There you go. So I do it all for me, and that's selfish. I do it for me, and I do it for everybody else that comes along.
There's nothing wrong if it is just for you, though.
No. You know, during COVID, I did it every Friday.
Oh, yeah?
And I would do a Facebook Live and nominate the topic. And everybody would go out in their 5 kilometer or whatever, or just shoot I had one was what's in your fridge. I think we had a laundry day in there, chucked in there.
This is a bit of a broad philosophical question, but I've always liked this notion. Does limitations bring out the best type of creativity?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Because one of my favorite social media platforms of all time was Vine. And Vine was only 7-second videos. I think you could post a shorter video if you wanted to, but no photos. Your whole narrative had to be in 7 seconds.
Yep.
And you watch some movies and you're like, that shot was 7 seconds and it only accomplished this much story, but these guys have to do beginning, middle, and end in one go. And of course, like all new emerging media technologies that are on public display, people made memes and jokes and had fun with it. But some people pulled off some really awesome stuff. So, yeah.
Look, in my teaching days, and I still talk about it, that education has a great way, and still does beat creativity out of kids.
Yeah.
No, Johnny, that car is not a plane, it's a car. It's supposed to be on the ground. Well, he's imagining it's a car that flies, creativity, everybody's creative, and anybody who says they're not creative, I'll call them out on it.
Yeah.
Because it's not true.
Absolutely.
They're just not, they're not experimenting with their mind and with what's out in front of them.
What's your creative outlet? Is it still photography, or is that sort of work?
No, my Walks for Wellbeing, I went to the Flinders Ranges over Christmas, New Year's, my wife and I did some landscape photography. Just enjoyed the landscape that was out there. But probably where I do find a lot of solace is Lego.
Oh, yeah? I love Lego.
I have an obsession with Lego. I try not to spend a lot of money because I know I don't want my family have to deal with my Lego collection when I depart the world, but I have an obsession with Lego.
I recently built Neuschwanstein, the giant castle in Germany, which I've actually visited myself, and that was quite wonderful. I didn't have a camera on me, I just had my phone, but even the photos from that, quite remarkable. Yeah. What's your most recently built set?
I got given 3 sets over Christmas. I got a camera, a
Yeah.
Lego camera. I got a plane, which I haven't built yet, and the Batmobile.
Nice.
And I got another little mini car thing to build as well. But it's again, that's one of those things that Lego gets you. It gets you photographies you got to do with your hands.
Yeah.
You've got something engaging. And I'll touch upon something with my portraits
Please,
as well
yeah.
here in a minute. You can hide behind that camera all you like, but at some point you got to peek up and over and use your eyes to see what's in front of you to decide what you're going to do, and then you engage with this, little, 2x3 little thing that you're going to frame up, and you think about your composition. You look up, yep, am I getting it all in? So it's just one of those things, and that, like Lego, you get to touch and plug things in, and yeah, sometimes you're flipping through a book, and then you got to go backwards because you got this extra piece. Like, this is supposed to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And you go back and oh, I forgot to put that one. That's a very important
Story
piece.
of my life.
Absolutely. So when it came to like the My Man's Shed book, every photograph in that book was photographed with the camera on the tripod. The cable release, I set everything up, and I just had a conversation. Because the second I hid behind the camera, you're lost. You have no connection. So if you go back, my first part that we talked, I got people to engage with that tool that they loved. My tool that I love is a camera. They loved a wrench or a car or whatever. I got them to talk about that. But we had a genuine conversation, face to face like this. And then when the moment was right, I'll go, the moment's perfect. Can you just look at the camera? Yep. And remember I said you're going to have to hold still for, I got a 1 second exposure like Guido here in the front cover. You're going to have to hold nice and still. So just engage with the camera, look at the camera. You ready to go? Yep, ready to go. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Done.
Absolutely amazing. Craig, I feel like we could talk for hours and hours.
We could, but yeah, your time's running out.
Unfortunately. We wrap up the podcast by the previous guest leaves a question for the current one, sort of not knowing who they are or anything like that. And this is a really interesting question, especially in your context and given everything we've talked about. But for you today it is, do you have a piece of work you regret and why?
Do I have a piece of work
that you regret and why? So, and something that you've, I don't know, a photo that you've taken, a collection. Regret's a tough word, because I actually spoke to the person who asked that afterwards, and I try not to use regret in my vocabulary. I think there is a place for regrets and lessons and stuff like that. But yeah, do you have...
Can I read that question? Just look at it.
The phrasing's at the bottom there. If you can read my handwriting.
I can read that. Do you have a piece of work you regret and why? Does it have to be a piece of work?
That's the question. You're welcome to answer it however you believe you can.
Of work. Oh. Regret is like hate. You don't hate something, you dislike.
Yeah.
Regret's a very deep word. I know you're taxing my 40 years of all the photography I've done.
Is there perhaps a project that you've done that lingers with you potentially for the wrong reason?
No.
No?
I mean, I've got other projects I want to do. I've got no regrets. Honestly, I've got no regrets. Look, if we want to talk not a piece of work, if we want to talk about something that still resonates with me, and do I regret not taking the job? So I got offered a job. I worked at NASA as a photographer for a year.
Casually.
And change. Casually. Well, yeah, casually. And I got offered a job after my internship, and I regret not taking it, but I wouldn't be here with you today. And I wouldn't be doing my Walks for Wellbeing. I would have never produced this book. So I took a different path. So, but it's not a regret.
Yeah.
It's what would have my life been had I done this?
I reckon that's wasted bandwidth, though.
It is wasted bandwidth, but I sometimes I get that, wow, that would have been so cool. But my career would have been over.
Yeah.
I would have been retired probably by now. I would have done something else. So, but I honestly don't have, I mean, maybe I regret some of the first photos I ever took, in my driveway at home, when I was first learning how to do photography. Maybe some of those works I regret, but
tell me what you think of this. So
yeah.
I'm a similar sort of perspective to you in the sense where I don't regret the projects themselves that I've worked on or the video things that I've done. What I do regret is the mindset and perspective that I had approaching them. I sort of was like, at times, I hate the edit sometimes, because I'm just sitting there and I'm like, something's not working.
Yeah.
I can't figure out why it's not working. And editing's a weird thing to teach, video editing, because I can show you or anyone how to use DaVinci Resolve or Premiere Pro, how to navigate the timeline, how to put music on, how to put a title on, transitions. But I can't teach you how to edit. I can't teach you how to tell story. You've got to do that yourself. You've got to figure that out. And that part that I've learned and done over time, I'm like, what's wrong with this? And I just get in a bind. And I regret keeping myself in that mindset for certain projects for as long as I did. Because I think it actually led to worse work in other situations and things like that.
I mean, look, regret. That's a huge question, and I don't, because I think if you regret a piece of work,
it sort of
I think you're looking at it the wrong way, because you're only as, I love this phrase, is you're only as good as the last photograph you took, because you're going to look at that and you're going to go, I could have done that better, I could have done that better, and then what you're going to do is then you're going to apply that to the next photograph that you do. Yeah, there's photos in here I'm not happy in my men's shed book. I'm not happy with how they printed. I'm not happy with how they came out. But you know what? That's not what it's about.
I completely agree.
So that's kind of how I look at it. I don't think you should ever regret a piece of work. I think what you should it's too strong of a word. So look at it as what can you take away from that and learn from it and apply it to your next photo and make the next photo better.
Awesome.
That's, I think, a better approach to that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, really wonderful way to wrap up the podcast.
100%.
Craig, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Joe, for having me.
No, you're very welcome. Where can people find you and what's going on for you?
Where people can find me, obviously on Facebook, Photography Walks for Wellbeing. If you just search, it's the first thing that you'll see. They can find me. I bought a photography business a year and a half ago called John Travers Photography. It's a business that's been around since the 40s. The guy who I bought the business off, Ian Howells, ran it for 40 years. So I've now been running it now nearly 2 years. So John Travers Photography, so you can find me through that. You can also do a Google search on Craig Wetjen and go to craigwetjen.com. It's easy and simple. I've got workshops up there. You can book me for how did I like my work, how did I like my men's sheds. We can do environmental portraits, we could do Lightroom, Photoshop, or we can just have a general chat about anything photography and whatever.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And Pick up this book before they sell out. There's not many left
There's less than 100 left.
at the time of recording. There'll be 99 because I'm grabbing one.
Yes.
All right. Thanks again, Craig.
Thank you.
See everyone next week.
See ya.